I made the pie from scratch that morning. Sweet potato, the way my late wife Eleanor used to make it. Brown sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, a little vanilla extract. My hands remembered the movements, even though she'd been gone 3 years. I wrapped in aluminum foil, still warm, and set it on the passenger seat like it was precious cargo. Because it was. Thanksgiving at Janelle's house. My daughter, my only child. The little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest while I watched the football games, who cried on my shoulder the night her mama died, who promised me we'd always be family no matter what. I pulled into their driveway at 4:30. The sun was already starting to set, painting everything orange and gold. Their house, the 2-story colonial with the brick facade and the maple tree out front, looked like something out of a magazine. I remember thinking how proud Eleanor would have been to see Janelle living like this. I didn't think about the fact that I own half of it. Marcus opened the door before I could knock. My son-in-law, 38 years old, slim build, always dressed like he was about to close a business deal even on holidays. He wore a burgundy sweater and khakis. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Samuel," he said. "Not Dad, not even Sam. Just my government name, flat and formal. Happy Thanksgiving, son," I said anyway, holding up the pie, still warm. He stepped aside without taking it from me. The house smelled like turkey and stuffing, and I could hear my grandson, little Marcus Jr., we called him MJ, laughing somewhere in the back. Janelle appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked tired. Beautiful, always beautiful, but tired in a way that went deeper than a long day of cooking. "Hey, Daddy," she said, and there was something in her voice. An apology, maybe, or a warning. I kissed her forehead. "Hey, baby girl, where should I put this?" "Just on the counter is fine." I set the pie down next to a store-bought pumpkin pie still in its plastic container. Mine looked humble next to all the expensive dishes and fancy serving platters. I felt humble too, suddenly, like I was taking up too much space. Dinner was set for 6 o'clock. Marcus's mother was there, a severe woman who'd never warmed to me, and his younger brother, who barely looked up from his phone. MJ sat in his booster seat, playing with his mashed potatoes. He was 5 years old and had my eyes. "Grandpa!" he shouted when he saw me. That was the last moment of joy I felt that night. We sat down. Marcus said grace, his voice smooth and measured like a politician's. I bowed my head and thought about Eleanor, about how she used to hold my hand during prayers. I thought about all the Thanksgivings we'd hosted when Janelle was young, when our house was full of laughter and music, and people who actually wanted me there. The meal started normal enough. Past the turkey. More gravy. Small talk about the weather. About MJ's kindergarten Thanksgiving play. I told a story about Janelle's first Thanksgiving, how she'd gotten sweet potato all over her face. She smiled, but it didn't last. Then Marcus cleared his throat. "Samuel," he said, setting down his fork with deliberate care. "We need to talk about something." The table went quiet. Even MJ stopped playing with his food. "Sure," I said. "What's on your mind?" "This pattern of dependence," he said. "It's not healthy." I blinked. "I'm sorry. You've been relying on us for emotional support ever since Eleanor passed. And while we want to be there for you, it's becoming a burden." The word hung in the air like smoke. Janelle looked at her plate. Marcus's mother nodded approvingly. His brother kept scrolling through his phone. "Marcus," I said slowly, "I don't understand what you're... Every holiday, every birthday, every Sunday dinner. You're here. We can't build our own family traditions when you're always around. Janelle needs space to be a wife and mother without feeling guilty about her father." My chest felt tight. I looked at my daughter. "Janelle, is that how you feel?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Daddy, it's complicated." "It's not complicated," Marcus said. His voice was cold now, sharp. "We need boundaries. We need you to respect our space as a nuclear family." I brought a pie. I said stupidly. I just wanted to. We know what you want, Marcus interrupted. But what we need is for you to take a step back. Permanently. The room tilted. Or maybe I did. So you're saying, don't come back, Marcus said clearly. Not for a while. We'll reach out when we're ready. I looked at each face around the table. Marcus, stone-faced. His mother, satisfied. His brother, indifferent. MJ, confused. And Janelle, my baby girl, staring at her hands like they held the answers to questions she was too afraid to ask. Nobody defended me. Nobody said, wait, that's not fair. Nobody said anything at all. I stood up slowly. My knees cracked. I was 67 years old, and in that moment, I felt every single year. All right, I said quietly. Dad, Janelle started. It's all right, baby. I looked at her, really looked at her, tried to memorize her face. You're a grown woman. You make your own choices. I walked to the door, put on my coat. Nobody followed me. As I reached the doorknob, I heard MJ's small voice. Where's Grandpa going? He has to leave, sweetheart, Marcus said. But it's okay. We'll be fine without him. I stepped out into the cold November air and closed the door behind me. The pie was still on the counter, untouched. I got in my car and sat there for a moment, engine off, hands on the steering wheel. Through the window, I could see them all still sitting at the table. Marcus said something. Janelle nodded. Life went on without me in it. I started the car and put in reverse. That's when I saw in my rear-view mirror. The house lit up gold in the evening light. The house with the mortgage I'd co-signed. The house I'd put $20,000 down on when Marcus's credit wasn't good enough. The house that had my name on the deed. And something inside me, something that had been bending for years, finally straightened up. They've forgotten who I am, I thought. I drove away slowly, deliberately, watching the house get smaller and smaller behind me. But they're about to remember. The road stretched out dark and empty ahead of me, broken only by streetlights and the red glow of taillights from cars I'd never see again. I kept the radio off. The silence felt like company. The first honest company I'd had all evening. My hands were steady on the wheel. That surprised me. I thought they'd shake. The passenger seat was empty. That's where Eleanor used to sit, her hand on my knee, humming along to whatever song was playing. She'd been gone 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. But sometimes I still reached over expecting to feel her there. Tonight, the emptiness felt different. Not lonely, just true. I thought about the last 5 years. Really thought about them. In a way I hadn't let myself before. It started the week Marcus proposed to Janelle. I remember being happy. My daughter was in love, starting her life, building a future. Marcus was charming back then. Smooth talker. Big dreams. He worked in consulting, he said. Business development. Always had a new venture, a new opportunity, a new deal just about close. Eleanor saw through him before I did. Watch that one, she'd whispered to me at the engagement party. He smiles too much at the wrong times. I'd laughed it off. You worry too much, baby. Janelle's happy. That's all that matters. 6 months after they got married, Marcus came to me with a problem. They'd found a house, the perfect house, but his credit score wasn't quite where it needed to be. Some old debts from college, he explained. Medical bills from before. He had good insurance. Nothing serious, but enough that the bank was hesitant. Could you co-sign, he'd asked, just to help us get started. We'll refinance in a year, get your name off the loan. I promise. Janelle stood next to him, her eyes bright with hope. Daddy, it's such a beautiful house. There's a yard for kids, good schools nearby. What was I supposed to say? No, disappoint my daughter? Let her miss out on her dream home. Because I didn't trust her husband? So I signed. And I put down $20,000 for down payment. Money Eleanor and I had saved over 40 years of marriage. Money that was supposed to be for our retirement, for medical bills, for the future neither of us knew we wouldn't have together. The refinance never happened. A year later, Marcus came back. The business was slow, he said. Cash flow problems. Temporary setback. Could I lend him $15,000? Just until the next quarter, until the big contract came through, until things turned around. Janelle cried when she asked. I'm so embarrassed, Daddy. I never wanted to be that daughter, the one who comes back asking for money. But Marcus says this is the last time. Things are really about to take off. I wrote the check. Then came the medical bills. $8,000 for a procedure Marcus needed, something with his back. Their insurance didn't cover it all. Could I help? I helped. Then car repairs. Then property taxes they've fallen behind on. Then MJ's preschool tuition. Each time, it was temporary. Each time, it was the last time. Each time, Janelle promised they'd pay me back. I never saw a dime. But it wasn't about the money, was it? It was about being needed, about being useful, about having a reason to exist in my daughter's life after Eleanor died and the house got too quiet and the days got too long. I pulled up to a red light. A young couple crossed the street in front of me, holding hands, laughing about something. They looked the way Janelle and Marcus used to look, before the mask slipped, because it had slipped, hadn't it? Slowly, over years. The way Marcus stopped saying, "Thank you," when I helped repairs on their house. The way he started calling me by my first name instead of Dad. The way he'd make little comments. Must be nice to have so much free time. Or, some people never really move on, do they? That felt like paper cuts. Small enough to ignore. Painful enough to remember. The way Janelle stopped inviting me over unless it was a holiday. The way she'd answer my calls less and less. Text more and more. The way she'd say, "Marcus thinks." Before every decision, like her husband's opinion had replaced her own brain. And tonight was just the final act of a play I'd been watching for 5 years without admitting what I was seeing. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it at the next red light. A text from Janelle. "Dad, I'm sorry." 3 words. No explanation. No defense. Just sorry. Like that word could patch the hole that man had just torn through my chest. I didn't respond. Another text. "Can we talk tomorrow?" I turned the phone face down. 20 minutes later, I pulled into my driveway. The house was dark. I'd left the porch light on, but it felt dim and insufficient against all that darkness. This house, the one Eleanor and I bought in 1982, where we raised Janelle, where we built a life, suddenly felt too big and too small at the same time. I sat in the car for a while, engine ticking as it cooled, watching the house like it might give me answers. Then I went inside. The kitchen table was exactly where I'd left it that morning. Cleared off except for one manila folder sitting in the center. I'd been organizing paperwork earlier in the week. Bills. Legal documents. The deed to Janelle's house. I sat down and opened the folder. There it was. The property deed. Joint ownership. Marcus Anthony Williams. Janelle Marie Williams. Samuel James Porter. My name, right there in black and white. Legal. Binding. Undeniable. I'd forgotten about that. Or maybe I'd trained myself not to think about it. Didn't want to be that father-in-law. The one who held things over people's heads. Who kept score. Who couldn't just give without strings. But they'd cut the strings tonight, hadn't they? I flipped through more papers. Bank statements showing wire transfers to their account. Copies of personal checks I'd written, each one labeled in my neat handwriting. Loan to Janelle and Marcus. Not gifts. Loans. $15,000. $8,000. $3,000. $1,200. $600. $23,800 total, plus the $20,000 down payment, plus the mortgage I'd co-signed, making me legally responsible if they defaulted. I sat back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. Eleanor's voice came back to me. Not a memory, but something deeper. The way she used to talk sense into me when I was being too soft, too giving, too afraid of conflict. Samuel James Porter. She'd said once, there's a difference between being kind and being a fool. Don't ever forget which one you are. I'd been a fool, but I didn't have to stay one. I closed a folder and sat in the silence of my empty house, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Something colder and clearer than anger. Self-respect. The clock on the wall ticked toward midnight. Thanksgiving was almost over. But something else, something I couldn't quite name yet, was just beginning. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Janelle. I picked it up, looked at the screen, and then, for the first time in 5 years, I set a boundary. I didn't respond. I turned off the phone and went to bed. 7 days passed like a hell breath. No phone calls. No text messages. No apologies at my door. Nothing but silence from the people who told me not to come back, and nothing from me in return. The first morning after Thanksgiving, I woke up expecting to feel something. Regret, maybe. Loneliness. The urge to call Janelle and smooth things over. Pretend it hadn't hurt as bad as it did. Make it easy for everyone to move on. But that urge never came. Instead, I made coffee. Black. The way Eleanor used to make it. I sat at the kitchen table with a manila folder and started going through everything systematically. The way I used to handle accounts back when I worked as a finance manager for the school district. Numbers don't lie. That's what I always told the young teachers who'd come to me confused about their pay stubs. Numbers are the one thing in this world that tell you the truth whether you want to hear it or not. So I looked at the truth. First, the house. I pulled up the county records online. Joint ownership, just like the deed said. If they sold, I was entitled to a third of the proceeds. If they defaulted on the mortgage, I was responsible for the payments. They'd missed 2 payments last year. I'd covered them without being asked because Janelle mentioned they were a little behind. I didn't know then that Marcus had just leased a new Audi. Second, the loans. I made a spreadsheet. Every check, every wire transfer, every temporary loan that became permanent. $23,800. I had copies of everything. I'd labeled them all as loans in my records. Not one had been paid back. Not one. Third, Marcus's business. I did something I should have done years ago. I looked it up. Williams Consulting Group, LLC. Registered in 2019. I pulled the state business records. No active filings since 2021. No tax returns. No business license renewal. The website was down. The phone number disconnected. The business Marcus always talked about, the one that was always about to take off, the one that just needed one more quarter, the one that justified every loan and every excuse didn't exist. It had been dead for 2 years. I sat back and stared at the screen until my vision blurred. That's when Jerome called. Jerome Miller. My best friend since we were both young men trying to figure out how to change the world. We'd marched together in the 70s, raised our kids together in the 80s, buried our wives together in the new millennium. If I had a brother, it would be Jerome. "You ain't called me back," he said when I answered. "I left you 3 messages." "I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me. Tell me what happened at Thanksgiving." Janelle won't say nothing, but I ran into her at the grocery store, and she looked like she'd been crying. So I told him. All of it. The dinner, Marcus's speech, the walkout, the silence after. Jerome didn't interrupt. He just listened the way he always did, with the kind of patience that makes you feel heard even when you're saying hard things. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then, "How long are you going to let them treat you like a doormat, Sam?" "I'm not." "Yes, you are. And you know what's worse? You're teaching that little boy that it's okay to disrespect his elders. You're teaching your daughter that she can choose a man over a father, and there won't be consequences. You're teaching yourself that you don't matter." The words hit like a slap. "I don't want to be that father," I said quietly. "The bitter one. the one who keeps score, the one who uses money to control people. That's not what this is, Jerome said firmly. This is about respect. This is about you protecting yourself from people who are using you. There's a difference between generosity and stupidity. Brother, you've been generous. They've been stupid. Time to stop enabling it. What am I supposed to do? Take them to court? Ruin my relationship with my daughter? They already ruined it. You're just deciding whether to notice. I close my eyes. Jerome, listen to me. You're a good man. Always have been. But good men get taken advantage of when they forget they're allowed to say no. Eleanor wouldn't want you living like this. You know she wouldn't. He was right. God, he was right. After we hung up, I sat in the silence for a while. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I went through my photo albums. There was Janelle at 3 years old, sitting on my shoulders at a 4th of July parade, waving a little flag. There she was at 10, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up a spelling bee trophy. At 16, prom dress, me adjusting her corsage while Eleanor took pictures. At 23, college graduation, master's degree in education. So proud she glowed. At 28, wedding day. White dress, big smile, Marcus beside her in a tuxedo, his hand on her waist like he owned her. That's when things changed, wasn't it? I closed the album. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Richard Chun had handled Eleanor's estate when she passed. Good man, thorough, fair. He listened to everything without judgment, taking notes in his careful handwriting. When I finished, he looked up at me over his reading glasses. Mr. Porter, I'm going to be direct with you. You have significant legal standing here. The house, the loans, all of it. But before we proceed, I need to ask, what do you want the outcome to be? I want them to understand they can't treat people like this. Do you want your money back? I hesitated. I want accountability. Do you want to force a sale of the house? I want to protect myself. Richard nodded slowly. Then here's what I recommend. We sent a formal letter, not a lawsuit, just a letter, outlining your legal position, the property ownership, the documented loans. We offer a repayment plan and clarify your rights regarding the house. It's a wake-up call, not a threat, but it's documented, legal, clear. And if they ignore it, then you have options. But my guess, once Marcus sees this is real, once he understands you're not going to just roll over, things will change. Men like him rely on people being too polite to fight back. I thought about Marcus's face across the Thanksgiving table. The coldness, the certainty that I'd just take it. Draft a letter, I said. Richard smiled slightly. I thought you might say that. That night, I sat on my back porch in the cold November air, wrapped in a coat that used to be Eleanor's. I kept it because it still smelled like her perfume, like home, like the life we'd built before everything got complicated. I thought about the plants she'd put in the ground a year before she died. They were dormant now, waiting for spring, but they were still there, roots deep in the soil, surviving the winter, just waiting for the right time to grow again. My phone buzzed. Another text from Janelle. Dad, please talk to me. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. When you're ready to have an honest conversation, I'm here. But I'm not going to pretend everything's fine when it's not. I hit send before I could second guess myself. 3 dots appeared immediately. She was typing. Then they stopped. Then started again. Then stopped. No response came. I put the phone away and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Eleanor was watching. I hope she was proud. I hope she understood that I was finally learning the lesson she tried to teach me all along. You can love people and still protect yourself from them. You can be kind without being a victim. You can say no and still be a good man. The night was quiet except for the wind in the trees. And for the first time in 7 days, I felt something close to peace. The reckoning was coming. I could feel it building like a storm on the horizon, but I was ready. The letter arrived at their house on a Tuesday morning, 9 days after Thanksgiving. I know, because Richard called me at 10:47 a.m. to tell me it had been delivered. Signature required. Marcus had signed for it himself. Now we wait, Richard said. I didn't have to wait long. My phone rang at 11:15 a.m. Janelle, I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 11:18. Again at 11:23. Then texts started flooding in. Dad, what is this? Why are you doing this? Call me, please. We need to talk. I was sitting in my living room, drinking coffee, watching the morning news. I looked at each message as it came in, felt the panic in the words, and took another sip of coffee. At 11:45, Marcus called. I answered on the third ring. What the hell is this? His voice was shaking, not with sadness, with rage. You sent us a legal letter? Demanding money? Threatening to take our house. I didn't threaten anything, I said calmly. I clarified my legal position regarding property I partially own and loans that haven't been repaid. You can't do this. I already did. You're trying to destroy us. This is financial abuse. I could have you arrested. I almost laughed. Marcus, I co-signed a mortgage you're not paying. I loaned you money you're not repaying. I own part of a house you told me to stay away from. I'm not destroying anything. I'm protecting myself. After everything we've done for you, what have you done for me? I asked. The question came out quiet, genuinely curious. Name one thing. Silence. We invited you to holidays until you uninvited me. Janelle needed space. Janelle needs to decide what Janelle needs, without you speaking for her. You have no right. I have every right. It's all in the letter, Marcus. Read it carefully, especially the part about the business that doesn't exist. I heard his breath catch. What are you talking about? Williams Consulting Group. No active filing since 2021. No tax returns. No business license. You've been telling us for years that business was slow, that money was tight, that you just needed one more quarter. But there is no business, is there? There hasn't been for 2 years. The silence stretched so long, I thought he'd hung up. Then quietly, dangerously, You're going to regret this. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll regret it with my dignity intact. I hung up. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, from adrenaline, from the pure, clean feeling of finally standing up for myself. The phone rang again immediately. Janelle this time. I answered. Daddy, please. Her voice was thick with tears. Please don't do this. We can figure something out. We can work it out. Baby girl, I've been trying to work it out for 5 years. Marcus says you're threatening to take our house. I'm not taking anything. I'm asking to be paid back for the money I loaned you and clarifying my legal rights regarding property I own. That's not a threat. It's a fact. But we can't afford. You can't afford the house I helped you buy with money you haven't paid back, while Marcus leases luxury cars and takes weekend trips? My voice was harder than I intended. I've seen the Instagram post, Janelle. I know what your life looks like. She was crying now. You're stalking our social media? I'm your father. I look at your pictures. That's not stalking. It's heartbreak. I didn't know things were this bad between you and Marcus. They're not bad between me and Marcus. They're bad between me and reality. And you're caught in the middle because you won't stand up to your husband. That's not fair. What did you say at Thanksgiving? I asked quietly, when he told me not to come back. What did you say? Silence. Nothing. I answered for her. You said nothing. You let him humiliate me in front of his family, in front of your son, and you said nothing. I was scared. Of what? Of making things worse. Baby, I closed my eyes. Things are already worse. They've been worse. You just didn't want to see it. We sat in silence on the phone, breathing. Finally, she said, What do you want from us? I want respect. I want honesty. And I want you to understand that I'm not going to be treated like I don't matter anymore. We never said you don't matter. Marcus told me not to come back. He didn't mean. Don't, I said firmly, don't make excuses for him. Don't tell me what he meant when he said exactly what he said. I heard him clearly. Now he's hearing me clearly. So what happens now? That's up to you and Marcus. You can acknowledge the debt and work out a repayment plan, or you can fight it legally. You can respect my ownership interest in the house, or you can buy me out. You can have an honest conversation about your financial situation, or you can keep pretending everything's fine. But what you can't do anymore is treat me like an ATM with a heartbeat. Daddy, I love you, Janelle. I always will. But love doesn't mean I have to let you hurt me. I hung up before she could respond. The rest of the day passed in a strange calm. I went about my routine, made lunch, read the paper, did some yard work. But underneath the calm was electricity, the feeling that something fundamental had shifted and there was no going back. At 4:30 p.m., my phone lit up with a notification. Instagram. Jerome had tagged me in a comment. I opened the app, something I rarely did, and found Marcus's account. He'd posted an hour ago. A long, rambling caption over a photo of him and Janelle on their wedding day. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you are the ones who hurt you most. When toxic people can't control you anymore, they try to control how others see you. The misinformation is meant to make you look crazy, so no one will believe your truth. Don't let toxic family members manipulate you with guilt and obligation. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. Hashtag boundaries, hashtag toxic family, hashtag protect your peace, hashtag family trauma. 67 comments. Mostly people I know saying things like, stay strong, and you don't need that negativity. But there were others, people from our church, from a neighborhood, from Janelle's teaching job, asking questions. What happened? Is everything okay? Who is this about? Jerome's comment was at the bottom. Interesting how the people who owe you money are the first ones to call you toxic when you ask for it back. I stared at the post for a long time. Marcus was trying to control the narrative, paint himself as a victim, make me the villain. The old me would have panicked, called him, tried to smooth it over, worried about what people thought. The new me, the one who'd finally found his spine, did something different. I called Richard. He's defaming you on social media. Richard said after I read in the post, we can send a cease and desist. Do it. And Mr. Porter, start documenting everything. Screenshots, dates, times of calls, and texts. If this escalates, we need a paper trail. It's already escalated. I said. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that post, about the way Marcus was twisting everything, making me the bad guy for protecting myself. At 2:17 a.m., my phone vibrated with a text. Janelle, Daddy, we need to talk. Please, can I come see you tomorrow? I stared at the message in the dark. Then I typed, yes, come alone. 3 dots appeared. Stopped. Started again. Okay. I set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, my daughter would have to choose between the truth and the man she married, and I had no idea which one she'd pick. The cease and desist arrived at their house Thursday morning. Richard had it delivered by courier. Official, legal, impossible to ignore. Marcus deleted the Instagram post by noon. But the damage was already spreading. People had screenshot it, shared it, asked questions. And Marcus, panicked, cornered, desperate, had started answering those questions in private messages. I know because Jerome showed me. Look what that fool sent to Pastor Williams, Jerome said, holding out his phone when he stopped by that afternoon. The message was long, rambling, full of half-truths and manipulations. Samuel has been trying to control our marriage since day one. He uses money as a weapon. Every time we've needed help, he's held it over us. Now he's threatening to take our house because I set a boundary. My wife is devastated. This is what narcissistic abuse looks like. Please pray for us. I felt sick reading it. He sent that to our pastor? And to half the deacons. And to 3 people from Janelle's school. He's doing damage control, Sam. Try and get ahead of the truth by spreading his version first. I sat down heavily. What do I do? You tell the truth. Simple. Factual. No emotion. Just receipts. I'm not going to air my family business on social media. You don't have to, but when people ask, and they will ask, you tell them exactly what happened. The loans, the house, the disrespect, and you show them the documents to prove it. That evening, Pastor Williams called me himself. Brother Samuel, he said in his deep, careful voice. I received a troubling message from Marcus. I wanted to hear your side before forming any opinions. So I told him everything, the Thanksgiving dinner, the legal letter, the Instagram post, the fabricated narrative. And do you have documentation of these loans? Pastor Williams asked. Every single one. May I see them? I drove to the church that night and sat in his office, laying out 5 years of bank statements, canceled checks, and signed loan agreements on his desk. He went through each one methodically, his reading glasses perched on his nose. When he finished, he removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. This is not the story Marcus told me, he said quietly. I know. He made it seem like you were being vindictive, controlling, using money to manipulate them. The only thing I'm trying to control is my own financial security. I'm 67 years old. This is my retirement money. Money Eleanor and I saved our whole lives. Pastor Williams nodded slowly. Have you tried to reconcile with them? I've tried for 5 years. Reconciliation requires both parties to be honest. I can't reconcile with someone who won't even acknowledge what happened. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'll speak with Marcus. And Janelle, separately. This church doesn't take sides in family disputes, but we do stand for truth. Thank you for coming to me directly. I shook his hand and left. On the drive home, I felt lighter, not vindicated, just validated. Someone in authority had seen the evidence and understood. That was enough. But Marcus wasn't done. Friday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mr. Porter, this is Detective James Moreno with the Fraud Division. I'm calling about a complaint filed against you by Marcus Williams. My heart stopped. A complaint? He's alleging financial elder abuse and attempted extortion. He claims you're threatening him and his wife for money they don't owe. I need to ask you some questions. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I have a lawyer, Richard Chun. I need to call him before I answer anything. That's your right, sir. Have him contact me. He gave me a case number and hung up. I sat in my car in the church parking lot, hands shaking, vision blurred. Financial elder abuse. Extortion. Marcus was trying to have me arrested. I called Richard immediately. His secretary patched me through even though it was after hours. Don't panic, Richard said after I explained. This is an intimidation tactic. He's hoping you'll drop the whole thing out of fear. But we have documentation of everything. Legal standing on everything. He filed a false report, which is itself a crime. What do I do? I'll contact a detective. Send him copies of all the documents. The deed, the loan agreements, everything. Once he sees the evidence, this goes away. Trust me. But what if... Samuel. Richard's voice was firm. You did nothing wrong. You protected yourself. That's not a crime. It's your right. After we hung up, I sat in the parking lot until the sun set. I thought about calling Janelle, about begging her to make this stop, about giving up the money in the house, and everything just to make the nightmare end. But then I thought about Eleanor, about the way she'd look at me if I backed down now, about the man she'd married, strong, principled, fair. I started the car and drove home. Saturday morning, My phone exploded with messages. Jerome, check Facebook. My neighbor Dorothy. Sam, are you okay? I saw Marcus's post. 3 people from church were praying for you. With dread pooling in my stomach, I opened Facebook. Marcus had posted again, this time on his personal page and in our church's community group. Trigger warning, elder abuse. I'm speaking out because silence protects abusers. My wife's father has been financially manipulating us for years, and when we finally set boundaries, he responded by threatening legal action and trying to take our home. He's filed false claims, harassed us, and even tried to turn our church against us. We've had to file a police report. If you've experienced financial abuse from a family member, please know you're not alone. Hashtag elder abuse, hashtag financial abuse, hashtag boundaries, hashtag speak your truth. The post had over 100 reactions, dozens of comments. But then I scrolled down and saw something that made my breath catch. Jerome had commented. So had Pastor Williams. So had 3 of the deacons. So had Dorothy. So had 6 people from my old job at the school district. And they'd brought receipts. Jerome, elder abuse is real and serious. So is fraud. Marcus, when are you going to tell people about the business that doesn't exist? About the loans you never paid back? About the property you live in that's partially owned by the man you're slandering? Pastor Williams, I've reviewed documentation in this matter. I encourage everyone to seek truth before forming judgments. Proverbs 18, verse 17, the one who states his case first seems right, until the other comes and examines him. Dorothy, I've known Sam Porter for 40 years. He's one of the most honest, generous men I've ever met. Before you share this post, ask yourself if you know the whole story. Then came the others, people who'd worked with me, know me, watch me raise Janelle alone after Eleanor died. People who remember me showing up to every school event, every church function, every community gathering. People who knew my character. And slowly, the tide began to turn. Someone posted, "Wait, Marcus, didn't you ask people for money last year for your business? What happened with that?" Someone else, "I'm confused. If Samuel is so abusive, why did you take his money for years?" Another, "This doesn't add up. My husband co-signed a car for his son and asked to be paid back when they stopped talking. That's not abuse. That's protecting yourself." Marcus started responding defensively, but each response made things worse. He contradicted himself, got aggressive, called people names. I watched it unfold like a slow-motion car crash. By Sunday afternoon, he deleted that post too, but the screenshots lived forever. Sunday evening, I was sitting on my porch when a car pulled into my driveway. Janelle, she got out slowly, like she wasn't sure she should be there. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back messily, wearing sweatpants and one of Marcus's old college sweatshirts. "Hey, Daddy," she said softly. "Hey, baby girl." We stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then she climbed the porch steps and sat in the chair next to mine, the one that used to be Eleanor's. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then, "I read everything," she said. "The loan documents, the property deed, the business records. Pastor Williams showed me." "Okay, why didn't you tell me Marcus's business was closed? Would you have believed me?" She was quiet. "Janelle, every time I try to talk to you about Marcus, about money, about anything difficult, you shut down. You chose him. Every time. He's my husband, and I'm your father. Those things don't have to be in conflict unless someone makes them that way." She pulled her knees up to her chest, suddenly looking like the little girl who used to sit with me on this porch, eating popsicles and watching fireflies. "I didn't know he was lying about the business," she whispered. "I swear I didn't know." "What else don't you know?" She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm scared to find out." "Baby, he handles all the money. I have a joint account, but he's the one who pays bills, manages everything. I trusted him. And now I'm looking at credit card statements, and there's thousands of dollars I can't account for. Charges at places I've never been. Cash advances I never took. My chest tightened. Is he stealing from you? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. She wiped her eyes. And the worst part is, when I asked him about it, he got so angry. Said I was siding with you against him. Said if I didn't trust him, maybe we shouldn't be married. That's manipulation. I know. Her voice broke. I know that now. But I'm in so deep, Daddy. We have a house, a kid, a life. How do I untangle myself from this? I reached over and took her hand. One step at a time. One truth at a time. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are. You're Eleanor's daughter. You're stronger than you think. We sat in silence as the sun set, holding hands like we used to when she was small, and the world made sense. Finally, she said, "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to choose yourself." "Not him. Not me. Yourself." "What do you want?" She thought about it for a long time. "I want the truth," she said finally, "even if it destroys everything. I'm tired of living in a lie." Then that's where we start. She nodded slowly, wiping her face. As she stood to leave, she paused at the top of the porch steps. "Daddy?" "Yeah." "I'm sorry I didn't say anything at Thanksgiving. I'm sorry I let him treat you like that. I'm sorry for all of it." "I know, baby. Do you forgive me?" I looked at my daughter, scared, broken, finally opened her eyes, and felt my heart crack and heal at the same time. "I never stopped loving you," I said. "And yeah, I forgive you." She nodded, tears streaming down her face, and walked to her car. I watched her drive away, wondering if she'd have the strength to do what needed to be done. But for the first time in weeks, I had hope because she'd taken the first step. She'd chosen to see the truth. 3 days passed before I heard from Janelle again. 3 days of silence that felt different from before, not empty, but full of decisions being made, truths being faced, courage being found. When she called, her voice was steadier than I'd heard in years. "Can we meet?" she asked. "Somewhere neutral. Not your house, not mine. Where?" "The park. By the lake. Where we used to go." The park was 30 minutes from both our houses. A place where I'd taken her every Sunday after church when she was young. We'd feed the ducks, walk the trail around the lake, talk about everything and nothing. Back when life was simple. Back when I was her hero. I got there first. It was a cold December afternoon, the kind where your breath makes clouds and the sky looks like brushed steel. I sat on our bench, the one with a commemorative plaque Eleanor had bought after Janelle's college graduation, for all the Sunday walks and all the dreams yet to come. Janelle arrived 10 minutes later. She was alone. That was the first good sign. She sat down next to me, and for a moment we just watched the ducks gliding across the gray water. "I haven't been here in years," she said softly. "Me neither. I forgot how peaceful it is." I didn't say anything, just waited. She'd asked for this meeting. She'd speak when she was ready. Finally, I went through everything. The bank accounts, the credit cards, the business records. All of it. And Marcus has been lying about a lot more than the business. Her voice was flat, factual, the tone of someone who's cried so much they've run out of tears. He's been taking cash advances on credit cards I didn't know about. Cards in both our names. We're $47,000 in debt, and I never knew because he always said he was handling it. I felt sick. 47,000? That's not even the worst part. She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. I found these messages on his laptop. He left it open, and I looked. The messages were from a woman named Deanna. Flirty messages. Late-night conversations. Nothing explicitly sexual, but intimate in a way that made the intent clear. Is he having an affair? I don't know. Maybe not physically. But emotionally? Yeah, I think so. She put the phone away. When I confronted him, He said it was nothing, just a friend. That I was being paranoid because of you, because you'd gotten in my head and made me suspicious. I know what it is, Daddy. It's gaslighting. I know the word now. I've been reading about it, about narcissistic behavior, about financial abuse, about all the things I've been too scared to name for years. She turned to look at me, and her eyes were different, older, clearer. You were right, she said, about all of it, and I'm sorry I didn't listen sooner. Baby, I never wanted to be right. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted Marcus to be the man you thought he was. So did I? She laughed bitterly. God, I was so stupid. You weren't stupid. You were in love. And then you were trapped. There's a difference. When I get trapped, I thought about it carefully. Probably when he convinced you that everyone who questioned him was the enemy. When he made you choose between your family and him over and over until choosing him became automatic. When he isolated you so slowly you didn't notice you were alone. She nodded slowly. The worst part is, I can see it now. I can see every manipulation, every lie, every moment he twisted things around. But while it was happening, I thought I was the problem. I thought I was too sensitive, too demanding, too close to my family. That's what abusers do. They make you doubt yourself until you can't trust your own mind. He's not hitting me, she said suddenly. I want to be clear about that. He's never hit me. Abuse isn't always physical. I know, but I keep thinking, is it abuse if there's no bruises? Is it abuse if sometimes things are good? Is it abuse if I chose this? Yes, I said firmly. To all of it, yes. We sat in silence. A family walked by, parents and 2 kids, laughing about something. Janelle watched them with an expression I couldn't quite read. MJ asked me yesterday why Grandpa doesn't come over anymore, she said quietly. I didn't know what to tell him. What did you say? I said grown-ups sometimes need space. But he's 5, Daddy. He doesn't understand space. He just knows his grandpa disappeared. The guilt in her voice broke my heart. That's not your fault, I said. It feels like my fault. Everything feels like my fault. I reached over and took her hand, the way I used to when she'd skin her knee or lose a spelling bee or have her heart broken by some boy who didn't deserve her. Janelle Marie Porter Williams, I said, using her full name the way Eleanor used to. Listen to me very carefully. You're not responsible for Marcus's choices. You are not responsible for his lies. You are not responsible for fixing him or saving him or making him into the man you hoped he'd be. The only thing you're responsible for is deciding what you're going to do now that you know the truth. What if I don't know what to do? Then you start small. What do you know you don't want? She thought about it. I don't want to keep lying. I don't want to keep pretending everything's fine. I don't want MJ growing up thinking this is what marriage looks like. Okay, that's a start. But I'm so scared. Her voice cracked. I'm 33 years old, and I don't know how to be alone. I don't know how to support myself and MJ without Marcus's income. Except there is no income. I don't know how to untangle our finances, or where we live, or how to explain to everyone that my marriage is falling apart. You don't have to figure it all out today, but I have to figure out something. I can't keep living in that house, looking at him, knowing what I know. Then stay with me for a while. You and MJ, take some space. Clear your head. Marcus would lose his mind. Let him. She looked at me with surprise. You mean that? I absolutely mean that, baby girl. His feelings are not your responsibility anymore. Your safety is. Your peace is. Your son's well-being is. If I leave, even temporarily, he'll see it as me choosing you over him. Good, I said firmly, because you're not choosing me. You're choosing sanity. You're choosing truth. You're choosing yourself. If he sees it as betrayal, that tells you everything you need to know about him. She was quiet for a long time, staring out at the lake. The sun was starting to set. painting everything gold and pink. Mama would tell me to leave, wouldn't she? Janelle said softly, "Your mama would have told you to leave 3 years ago. Why didn't you?" "Because you weren't ready to hear it. And because I was afraid if I pushed too hard, you'd choose him and I'd lose you completely." She squeezed my hand. "You almost did lose me. But I didn't. You're here. You're seeing clearly. That's all that matters." She pulled something out of her pocket. The old photo I kept in my wallet, the one from her high school graduation, the one she'd taken when she'd met me at the park before. "I've been carrying this around," she said, looking at it, "trying to remember who I was before I became Marcus's wife, before I became so small." In the photo, she was 18, wearing her graduation gown, her arm around my waist, both of us grinning at the camera. She looked confident, happy, free. "I want to be her again," Janelle whispered. "I want to remember what it feels like to take up space, to have opinions, to not apologize for existing." "Then come home," I said. "Not forever. Just until you figure out what's next. You and MJ. I've got the space. I've got the time. And I've got your back." She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "What if I can't do it? What if I get scared and go back to him?" "Then I'll still love you." "But Janelle, you're stronger than you think. You're Eleanor's daughter." And Eleanor never backed down from a hard truth in her life. She laughed through her tears. "Mama was fierce. So are you? You just forgot for a while." We sat on that bench until the sun fully set and the park lights came on. We didn't talk much, just sat together the way we used to, father and daughter, finding our way back to each other. When we finally stood to leave, she hugged me, really hugged me. The kind of hug that says I'm sorry and thank you and I love you all at once. "I'm going to go home and pack some things," she said. "Just clothes for me and MJ, his favorite toys. I'll tell Marcus we're spending a few days with you. That's all, just a few days. And if he says no, then I'll know for sure that I'm not in a marriage. I'm in a prison." I watched her walk to her car, shoulders straight, head up. She looked more like herself than she had in years. As she drove away, my phone buzzed. A text from Jerome. "How'd it go?" I typed back, "She's coming home." 3 dots appeared, then Eleanor will be proud. I looked up at the darkening sky, at the first stars beginning to appear, and I hoped he was right. Janelle showed up at my door at 8:30 that night with 2 suitcases, a sleepy 5-year-old, and a look of exhausted determination. "He knows," she said simply. I didn't need to ask what happened. I just stepped aside and let them in. MJ perked up when he saw me. "Grandpa, we're having a sleepover." "That's right, buddy," I said, scooping him up just like old times. "Where's Daddy?" Janelle and I exchanged glances. "Daddy's staying home tonight," she said. "It's just us and Grandpa." "Cool. Can we have pancakes for breakfast?" "Absolutely," I said. I set up MJ in the guest room, the one that used to be Janelle's childhood bedroom. He was asleep within minutes, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, completely unaware that his whole world was shifting. Janelle and I sat in the kitchen. I made coffee even though it was late. Neither of us would sleep anyway. "Tell me what happened," I said. She wrapped her hands around the mug, staring into it like it held answers. I told him I needed a few days to think, that I was going to stay with you. He completely lost it, started yelling about how I was abandoning him, how you brainwashed me, how I was destroying our family. Then she paused. He grabbed my arm, not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to stop me from leaving. And he said, "If you walk out that door, don't come back." My jaw tightened. "He put his hands on you?" "Just my arm. Just for a second." "Janelle." "I know, Daddy. I know. That's why I left." She looked up at me. I looked at him grabbing me, trying to physically prevent me from leaving, and I thought, this is it. This is the moment. If I stay now, I'm teaching MJ that this is normal, that men can control women, That love looks like fear. So you left. I left, pulled my arm away, grabbed MJ, grabbed the suitcases I'd already packed, and walked out while he was screaming at me. Did he follow you? No, but he's been texting nonstop. She showed me her phone. Dozens of messages, escalating from apologetic to angry to desperate to threatening. Baby, I'm sorry I didn't mean to grab you. You're overreacting. Your father is poisoning you against me. If you don't come home tonight, we're done. You're making a huge mistake. I'll drain the bank accounts. You'll regret this. Please just come home, we can talk. I love you. I hate you. You're a terrible mother. The messages painted a clear picture of a man unraveling. Have you responded? Once. I told him I needed space, and I'd contact him when I was ready. He didn't take it well. Block him for tonight. Just for tonight. Give yourself peace. She hesitated, then nodded and blocked his number. The silence that followed felt enormous. What do I do now? She asked quietly. You rest. Tomorrow we make a plan. But tonight you just rest. She nodded and went to bed in my room. I'd sleep on the couch. But an hour later, I heard her crying through the door. Soft, broken sound that reminded me of when she was little and had nightmares. I stood outside the door, hand on the knob, torn between giving her space and being there for her. The door opened. She stood there in her pajamas, eyes red. Will you sit with me? She asked. Like you used when I was scared? Of course, baby girl. I sat in the chair by the bed while she curled up under covers. We didn't talk. I just sat there, present, the way I'd done 1,000 nights when she was young and the dark felt too big. Eventually, she fell asleep. I went back to the couch and lay awake, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. My phone buzzed at 2:17 a.m. An unknown number. A text. You destroyed my family. I hope you're happy. Marcus. Using a different phone. I blocked that number too. At 3:45 a.m., my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole, and my blood went cold. Marcus stood on my porch, disheveled, wild-eyed. I didn't open the door. Samuel, he shouted, I know you're in there. I know she's in there. This is between me and my wife. Marcus, I called through the door. You need to leave now. Not until I see Janelle. She doesn't want to see you. She's my wife. And this is my property. Leave, or I'm calling the police. You manipulative old man. You've been trying to destroy us from the beginning. You can't stand that she chose me. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I'm calling them now. I said loudly, you have 60 seconds to get off my property. For a moment, I thought he'd force his way in. I could see it in his eyes through the peephole, that desperate calculation. Then he kicked my door once hard and stormed back to his car. I watched through the window as he sat there, gripping the steering wheel, clearly debating what to do next. A police car pulled up 7 minutes later. The officer, a young woman named Rodriguez, listened to my statement, looked at the door, which now had a scuff mark from Marcus's kick, and went to speak with Marcus. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw Marcus gesturing wildly, pointing at my house, his whole body radiating rage. Officer Rodriguez came back to my door. He says his wife is here, and he just wants to see his son. His wife is here voluntarily. She's sleeping. She doesn't want to see him, and he was just told to leave my property. Has she filed any restraining orders? Not yet. Does she want to press charges at the door? I hesitated. That felt like escalation. But then I thought about Marcus's hands on Janelle's arm, about the threatening texts, about him showing up at 3 a.m. unhinged. Yes, I said. Rodriguez nodded. I'm going to issue him a citation for property damage and inform him that if he returns, he'll be arrested for trespassing. I'd recommend your daughter file for a restraining order first thing Monday morning. I will. She walked back to Marcus's car and handed him something through the window. He crumpled in his fist, threw it in his car, and peeled out of my driveway fast enough to leave rubber marks. When I went back inside, Janelle was standing in the hallway, pale and shaking. "He came here," she whispered. "He's gone now. He kicked your door. It's just a door, baby." "No." Her voice was hollow. "No, it's not just a door. It's him showing me what he's capable of. It's a warning. Then we take it seriously. Tomorrow, we file for restraining order. We document everything. We protect you and MJ." She nodded numbly and went back to bed. I sat on the couch for the rest of the night, wide awake, door locked, bat from the garage, sitting beside me just in case. At 6 a.m., my phone lit up with notifications. Marcus had posted on Facebook again. But this time, something was different. The post was still up, but the comments section had exploded overnight, and not in his favor. Someone named Rachel Chin had commented, "Marcus, you owe my husband $3,000 from that business investment you promised would pay back double. Still waiting." Someone named Troy Mason, "Man, you asked to borrow money from me at church 3 months ago. Said it was an emergency. Now I'm seeing you bought a new car? What's up with that?" Someone from Janelle's school, "This doesn't sound like the Mr. Porter I met at the teacher fundraiser. He seemed lovely. Something doesn't add up." And then Jerome, posting receipts, literal receipts, screenshots of loan documents, property deeds, business records showing Marcus's LLC was inactive. Since we're sharing stories publicly, let's talk about facts. Marcus Williams borrowed $23,800 from Samuel Porter over 5 years. Not paid back. Marcus Williams lives in a house partially owned by Samuel Porter. Marcus Williams' business has been inactive since 2021. Though he's claimed it's active, these are documents. This is truth. Stop playing victim when you're the victimizer. The post was being shared over and over. People were screenshotting it, sending it to mutual friends. Marcus's character was being exposed in real time. And while I didn't take pleasure in his downfall, I felt a grim satisfaction in the truth finally being told. Around noon, Pastor Williams called. "Samuel, I need to inform you that Marcus has been asked to step back from his position as deacon while these matters are being investigated by the church leadership. We don't take accusations lightly on either side, but the evidence you showed me, combined with what emerged online, has raised serious concerns." "Thank you, Pastor." "How is Janelle?" "Scared. Strong. Finding her way. Tell her she's in our prayers. The real kind. The kind that comes with action. If she needs anything, counseling, legal referrals, financial assistance, the church will help." After we hung up, I felt something shift. The community was rallying. The truth was spreading. Marcus's web of lies was unraveling strand by strand. But the most important thing happened that afternoon. Janelle came into the living room where I was watching MJ color. She had her laptop open. "I found something," she said, and her voice was steel. "Marcus's business partner from 2019, the one who supposedly moved to California. I tracked him down. And he didn't move to California. He's in Phoenix. And he's been looking for Marcus for 2 years. Why? Because Marcus embezzled money from their partnership, took client payments, and never delivered services. Forged documents. The partner filed a lawsuit but couldn't serve Marcus because he kept dodging. She turned the laptop so I could see the court documents. This isn't just lying, Daddy. This is fraud. This is criminal. I looked at my daughter, my baby girl, and saw someone I'd never seen before. Not the scared wife, not the uncertain woman, but a fighter. Someone who'd found her strength in the worst possible way. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "I want to give this partner Marcus's current address. I want the lawsuit served. I want consequences." "Are you sure?" She met my eyes. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. That night, while MJ slept and Janelle worked on her laptop, I stood on my porch and looked at the stars. The reckoning had begun, not with revenge, not with cruelty, but with truth. And truth, I was learning, was the most powerful weapon of all. The restraining order was granted on Tuesday. Temporary, the judge said, but enforceable. Marcus was to stay at least 500 feet away from Janelle, MJ, and my property. No contact except through lawyers regarding divorce proceedings. Divorce. The word hung in the air like thunder. Janelle filed on Wednesday. Her hands shook as she signed the papers. But she signed them, every single page. "I'm really doing this," she whispered. "You really are," I said. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Green who specialized in cases involving financial abuse, laid it all out. Community property laws meant Janelle was entitled to half of everything, but there was nothing. The house was underwater on the mortgage. The cars were leased. The credit card debt was $47,000 and growing. Marcus's business was defunct. His checking account had $162 in it. Where did it all go? Janelle asked, bewildered. Patricia showed her the credit card statements she'd subpoenaed. Cash advances, gambling websites, sports betting, expensive dinners at restaurants Janelle had never been to, hotels in cities Marcus had claimed were business trips. Janelle went pale. He was gambling? Heavily. And losing. The business money. The loans from my father. Everything. Gone. I'm sorry. That night, Janelle cried in a way I'd never heard before. Not sad crying, but angry crying. Grieving crying. The kind of tears that wash away the last illusions. "I gave him everything," she said. "My 20s, my 30s, my trust, my father's money, my dignity. And he was gambling it away while telling me we were broke. I'm so sorry, baby." "Don't be sorry. Be angry with me." "I am angry, but I'm proud of you too." She looked up, surprised. "Why?" "Because you chose the truth. Because you walked away. Because you're teaching MJ something I wish more people learned. That leaving is sometimes the bravest thing you can do." Over the next 2 weeks, more truth came out. The business partner in Phoenix successfully served Marcus with papers for the fraud lawsuit. The amount, $65,000. 2 other former clients came forward with similar stories. One had already gotten a judgment against Marcus. He'd never paid. The IRS sent a notice to Janelle. Marcus hadn't filed tax returns in 3 years. They were both liable for the back taxes and penalties. Janelle called me from Patricia's office, her voice hollow. "How did I not know any of this?" "Because he kept you in the dark on purpose. That's how financial abuse works. We're going to lose everything, aren't we? You're going to lose debt. You're going to lose lies. You're going to lose a man who is destroying you. Those aren't losses, baby. Those are survivals." Patricia helped Janelle file for bankruptcy. "It was humiliating," she said. "It felt like failure." "It's not failure," Patricia told her firmly. "It's a legal tool designed specifically for situations like this. You were a victim of fraud by your spouse. The court will see that. The house went into foreclosure. I used my legal rights to extract myself from the mortgage before it destroyed my credit too. The bank took the property. Marcus moved into a studio apartment on the other side of town. Janelle and MJ stayed with me. What was supposed to be a few days became a month, then 2 months, then something that stopped needing a timeline. She got a job at a new school, better pay, better hours. She started therapy. She opened her own bank account for the first time in her adult life. She learned to say no. She learned to ask for what she needed. She learned, slowly, to trust her own voice again. MJ adjusted better than we expected. Kids are resilient like that. He asked about his daddy sometimes, but Marcus's supervised visitation, granted by the court, was sporadic at best. Marcus would schedule visits and cancel last minute. Promise to call and forget. Send child support late or not at all. And each time, MJ cared a little less. Grandpa, He said one Saturday morning while we were making pancakes, "Is Daddy ever going to come back?" "What do you mean, buddy? Are we ever going to be a family again?" I looked at Janelle, who'd frozen at the kitchen table. "You are family," I said carefully. "You and Mommy and me. That's a family. Daddy will always be your daddy, but sometimes grown-ups can't live together anymore. That doesn't mean anybody stopped loving you." Oh. He thought about it while flipping a pancake. "Okay, can I have chocolate chips of mine?" Just like that. Kids and their perfect ability to accept truth and move on. If only adults were that resilient. By March, Janelle started looking at apartments. Small ones, affordable ones. Places she could afford on her own salary. "You don't have to leave," I told her. "There's plenty of room here." "I know, but I need to prove to myself that I can do it, that I can stand on my own." I understood. This wasn't about me. It was about her reclaiming herself. She found a 2-bedroom in a decent neighborhood near MJ School. The landlord called me for a reference. I gave her the best one I could. "Ms. Williams is one of the most determined, honest, hard-working people I know." I said, "She's been through hell and came out standing. You'd be lucky to have her as a tenant." She got the apartment. Moving day was a Saturday in April. Jerome came to help. So did Dorothy from next door. So did 3 teachers from Janelle's school and Pastor Williams and 2 women from her new therapy group. We moved her whole life, rebuilt, simplified hers, into that little apartment in 4 hours. When the last box was inside, Janelle stood in the middle of her empty living room and cried. Happy tears or sad tears. I asked, "Both," she said. "I'm 33 years old and starting over with nothing, but I'm also 33 years old and starting over." Finally, that night, after MJ was asleep in his new room, Janelle and I sat on her small balcony drinking sweet tea. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For setting boundaries even when it hurt. For showing me what self-respect looks like. You did the hard part, baby. You chose yourself. I chose wrong for a long time first. That's called being human. What matters is you chose right eventually." She was quiet for a moment, then, "Do you think Mama would be disappointed in me?" "Your Mama?" I laughed softly. "Eleanor would have dragged you out of that house by your ear 3 years ago. But once you were out, she'd be so proud she'd burst. Just like I am. I miss her." "Me too." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights, feeling the spring air. "Daddy." "Yeah. I'm going to be okay, aren't I?" I looked at my daughter, scarred but healing, broken but rebuilding, scared but strong, and I knew the answer with absolute certainty. You're going to be more than okay. You're going to be free. The final twist came in May. Marcus's fraud case went to court. The business partner from Phoenix won a judgment of $65,000 plus legal fees. 2 other clients had judgments pending. The IRS had placed liens on any assets Marcus might ever have. He destroyed himself more thoroughly than I ever could have. I ran into him once, completely by accident, at the grocery store. He looked terrible, thinner, older, defeated. He saw me and froze. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then he said, "I hope you're happy." "I'm not happy you destroyed yourself, Marcus. I'm just glad you stopped destroying my daughter. I loved her." "No," I said firmly. "You love what she did for you. There's a difference." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. What could he say? The evidence was overwhelming. The truth was undeniable. He walked away without another word. I watched him go and felt nothing. No triumph. No vindication. Just relief that this chapter was finally, truly closed. June brought Thanksgiving memories back around, though it was months away. But I found myself thinking about it. About that dinner. About Marcus's words. About the pie left untouched. "Don't come back," he'd said. So I hadn't. Not to him. Not to the lies. Not to the person I'd been who accepted disrespect in the name of keeping peace. But I had come back to something else. I'd come back to myself. One Sunday in late June, Janelle called and asked if I want to come over for dinner. Nothing fancy. Just spaghetti and garlic bread. Her and MJ. I'd love to, I said. When I got there, the apartment smelled like tomatoes and basil. MJ was setting the table, carefully placing napkins and forks like it was the most important job in the world. Grandpa, I helped make the sauce. Did you? Then I know it's going to be delicious. We ate together, the three of us, talking about everything and nothing. MJ told jokes that didn't make sense. Janelle told a story about a parent-teacher conference gone hilariously wrong. I talked about finally cleaning out Eleanor's closet and finding old photos I'd forgotten existed. It was simple. It was easy. It was real. After dinner, while Janelle did dishes and MJ played with his dinosaurs in his room, I stood on her little balcony and looked out at the sunset. She came out and stood beside me. "This is nice," she said. "It is." I was thinking, Thanksgiving is in a few months. Would you want to have it here? Just us. Start a new tradition. I looked at my daughter, my strong, scarred, beautiful daughter, and smiled. I'd like that. I like that a lot. "I'll make a pie," she said. "Sweet potato. The way Grandma used to make it. And I'll actually get to eat it this time." She laughed. "Yeah, Daddy. You'll actually get to eat it this time." We stood there together, father and daughter, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Behind us, MJ's laughter drifted to the screen door. Ahead of us, the future stretched out uncertain but hopeful. I thought about Marcus's words one more time. Don't come back. He'd meant it as rejection, as punishment, as control. But what he'd actually given me was permission to stop enabling, stop sacrificing, stop shrinking myself to fit into spaces where I wasn't wanted. Permission to leave so I could finally come home to myself. And in doing so, I'd show my daughter that she could do the same. We lost a lot in the past 6 months. Money, houses, illusions, a marriage, years of time we'd never get back. But we'd gained something more valuable than any of that. We'd gained our freedom, our dignity, our sense of self. We'd gained each other back. And as I stood there with Janelle, watching the sunset over her little apartment, her hard-won, paid-for by herself, symbol of her strength apartment, I realized something profound. This wasn't the end of the sad story. This was the beginning of a true one. Thanksgiving came around again, exactly 1 year after the dinner that changed everything. This time, it looked different. Janelle's apartment was too small to host properly, so we had it at my house. But it wasn't just the three of us anymore. Jerome was there with his daughter and grandkids. Dorothy from next door came. Pastor Williams and his wife stopped by. 3 of Janelle's teacher friends. 2 women from her therapy group who become real friends. The house was full of noise and laughter and life. The way it used to be when Eleanor was alive, when family meant joy instead of obligation. I made the turkey. Janelle made the sweet potato pie from Eleanor's recipe, and it was perfect. MJ helped with the mashed potatoes, getting more on himself than in the bowl. At one point, I looked around a crowded table, at all these people who'd chosen to be here, who'd supported us through the worst year of our lives, who'd shown up with truth and love in casseroles, and I felt my chest tighten with gratitude. This was family, not the one I'd been born into or married into or tried to force into existence. The one we'd built through honesty and boundaries and mutual respect. After dinner, when people were scattered around the house in various stages of food coma, Janelle found me on the back porch. She handed me a cup of coffee and sat in Eleanor's chair. "You good, Daddy?" "Better than good." I was thinking about last Thanksgiving, about how much has changed. Everything changed. "No," she said thoughtfully. "We changed. Everything else just caught up." She was right. We sat in comfortable silence, sipping coffee, listening to MJ's laughter through the screen door. He asked about Marcus yesterday. Janelle said, first time in weeks. What did you tell him? That his daddy is working on himself. That sometimes people need time to figure things out. That it's not MJ's fault. She paused. He said, that's okay. Grandpa takes care of us. Then he went back to playing. My throat tightened. Smart kid. He is. And he's happy. Really happy. That's how I know I made the right choice. Any regrets? She thought about it. I regret the years I wasted. But I don't regret leaving. I don't regret filing for divorce. I don't regret choosing myself. She looked at me. You taught me that walking away isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the only way to save yourself. You save yourself, baby. I just held the door open. Well, thank you for holding it. Inside, someone put on music. Old Motown, Eleanor's favorite. People started dancing in the living room. Dorothy and Jerome, doing some move that probably looked better 40 years ago. Pastor Williams' wife trying to teach MJ to do the twist. Janelle stood and held out her hand. Dance with me, Daddy? I took her hand and let her pull me inside. We danced in my living room, father and daughter, surrounded by people who loved us, in a house full of joy and second chances and hard-won peace. This was home, not a place or a person, but a feeling, the feeling of being seen and valued and respected, the feeling of standing in your truth and having it be enough. Marcus had said, don't come back. And I hadn't. I'd left behind enabling and fear and false peace. I'd left behind being small and apologetic and convenient. I'd left behind a version of myself that gave everything and asked for nothing. And in leaving, I'd found my way home to the man I was always meant to be. The man Eleanor had loved. The man she'd raised Janelle to respect. The man who knew his worth and refused to settle for less. As the music played and the people I loved laughed around me, I looked up at the ceiling, at the place where I liked to imagine Eleanor watching from, and I thought, I hope you're proud, baby. I finally learned a lesson. You can't love people into treating you right, but you can love yourself enough to walk away when they don't. And sometimes, walking away is what saves everyone. The song changed to something upbeat. MJ grabbed my hand and Janelle's, pulling us into a circle. Jerome joined, then Dorothy, then everyone else, all of us dancing together. A chosen family built on truth and boundaries and love that didn't require sacrifice. This was my life now, smaller in some ways, bigger in the ones that mattered. And as I looked at my daughter, strong, free, finding herself, I knew with absolute certainty, we hadn't just survived the reckoning. We'd earned our redemption, and that made all the difference.